Yeah, 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 yeah. Look. Never switch on the homies in the day ones. They didn't wanna open doors, so we made some. Take a bow on these haters like I'm Trey Young. That direct deposit hitting like a bass drum. Incoming, coming. Keep it incoming, coming.
Hi, and welcome back to Bottle Rocket. I'm Alena, your host, and here with Stan and George. And we have Mollie Walker, a New York Rangers reporter. Welcome to the show, Mollie.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I haven't seen Stan in so long. It's so great to look upon his face.
I'm not really me. I'm a guy from Central Casting. Official is too old. Molly, I got to ask you the first. I got to open with this.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up, by the way?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Where? It's a big
Bergen
state.
County. Bergen County.
So Molly growing up in Bergen County, okay? What was the first time the game of hockey was exposed to you, where you were first aware of it?
My mom, every other night that I can remember was constantly watching every single Ranger game. Every single night. She has always been a huge fan and always told me stories about 94 and all of her memories growing up, going to games and getting pucks from players and things like that. So I was definitely always around it because of her. But it was around like 8th grade, I think, when I finally started paying attention and kind of fell in love with it myself. So we had that going for both of us.
So when did you decide, I decided that I wanted to get seriously into hockey. I already was seriously pursuing some sort of career when I was going to graduate from high school. So I said to my father, I was an only child. I said to my father, I said, Dad, he knew how crazy I was already. I said, I want to go to one of two colleges. No, one of three. I want to go to either Dartmouth because they have big hockey there. And their coach did a hockey book that I got out of the library. I want to go either to Dartmouth, to McGill, or to University of Toronto. So, my father's a very funny guy. And he says, you're going to go to one of those three schools when we plant a money tree in the backyard. So that was delete that idea, Buster.
Yeah.
And I wound up going to Brooklyn College. But hockey was everything. We didn't have a hockey team in Brooklyn College, but we had a soccer team. And by a stroke of luck, the guy who was covering the soccer team did something stupid in the journalism office, and they suspended him. And I happened to be there at the time, and the sports editor said, how would you like to do soccer? I said, well, soccer is almost like hockey, except it doesn't have ice and players who skate around. But anyhow, he put me on the soccer team. We had the best soccer team that season. We won the championship in the final day of the season. And we went on, I took a road trip for the first time in my life. But on the side, I was getting into hockey through the back door. I was vice president of Ranger Fan Club. So that meant players used to come to the meetings those days, and we could interview them, and we did a little Ranger.
That's crazy.
And I began to hang around the Garden, and of course, I eventually got hired to work in Rangers publicity. But I'm always fascinated about, wow, you're the first person, Molly, I ever interviewed whose mother was into it.
Yeah. Oh, huge fan. Absolutely.
Did you have a favorite player?
Ron Duguay. Always had the Ron Duguay posters. Big fan.
The great thing about Ron Duguay.
Did you have the blue jeans? On jeans.
I have to say, I think that was more about the way that he looked than the way that he played the game. But that's just my observation.
With all his glamour.
Yeah.
All his glamour. One of the nicest guys.
Yes.
Any sport.
My former podcast partner. We love Ron.
What about you? Who's your favorite player, Mollie?
Well, I don't really have favorite players anymore, obviously. But growing up for me, Chris Kreider was the guy that I watched basically come into the league, and then getting to cover him as a reporter was very cool for me. But probably Chris is the guy that stands out to me as someone that I just really enjoyed watching when I was first getting into watching the Rangers.
I think it's important right now to say the amazing thing about Mollie is how she progressed from college. And one of my buddies, who's a scout out in the West, was with Mollie at the college at the time. But she went to the Post. She worked her tush off to get up and up, and she worked alongside Larry Brooks, who I remember back when Larry broke in. I safely say is the dean of American hockey writers. Okay,
Definitely.
Unfortunately, Larry passed away, and Mollie succeeded Larry Brooks. How challenging was that?
Yeah, it's not easy. I felt like we lost a pillar in hockey in the NHL and around the Rangers. Somebody that obviously I always leaned on for everything. Someone who taught me a good portion of what I know, almost all. He wouldn't want me to say that though, because I think that he thought that I had a lot going for me too coming into the job. So he gave me a lot of confidence to know that I could step into his shoes. But I think that nobody will ever be able to be what Larry was in the NHL, especially because he worked on the team side for such a good part of his career, serving as a PR director for the Devils. That is very rare nowadays. I think when I talk to students, I always tell them that you kind of have to pick a lane, whether you want to work for a team or if you want to work for independent media, because it's really hard to do both and it's hard to transition from one to another. But Larry did it seamlessly. I also think it was a little bit of a different time back then, but Larry did it seamlessly. And I think that his time with the Devils made him understand the teams that he covered so much better than everybody else. Truly, I think that that time helped him so much. So, I don't think anybody will ever be able to be Larry. I certainly will never be able to step into those shoes fully. But I have a lot of support over at the New York Post, which is great. I have amazing editors and great colleagues. So it definitely gives me a lot of confidence to do my best and to continue growing my source network and learning the ropes, still, because, you're always learning in this job. So, yeah, it's been tough, though. I miss them dearly more than anything.
Well, I should have introed by saying, without a doubt, the New York Post has the best sports section on the continent. And I find that the only thing, and I don't know why you guys don't do it, but as a hockey person, I would love to see somebody cover the Devils for the Post.
Yeah.
But it's none of my business why they don't. But
I could tell you why. At least what my understanding is. I think it's for a lot of the other papers too, because I think a lot of the New Jersey papers don't have it anywhere either. But I guess it's just the readership is low. Yeah, like that's what it comes down to, is that there's the market for it. There doesn't seem to be a hunger for the content. So that's why a lot of, like, the Athletic doesn't even have a Devils reporter. Peter Ball kind of steps in there sometimes, but he mostly does the Rangers and the Islanders. So yeah, I think it's just a readership translation thing. But yeah, that's above my pay grade. But when I was at the Olympics, I did force feed them a couple Switzerland Devil stories that I required them to post, so we could get some coverage of Nico Hischier and those guys in there too.
Jersey guy, George, what's your answer?
Well, I mean, I've been watching the market since our famous interview in 1982, right? So I was there at the beginning, and I've seen the coverage go up and then do this and then drop off. I think the readership is part of it. I know that their radio ratings have always been poor. A lot of teams are on the internet now because stations don't want to clog up their airtime with they can just run regular syndicated programming and make more money than putting sports on. But I think it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, And I think this may change now, Mollie, right? Because now the Devils, in my opinion, for the first time, have a true national superstar personality. Everything, I don't know who body snatched him at the Olympics, but he came back a different guy. And everybody knows who he is, and the news anchors know who he is, and the talk shows know who he is. So I think if they get him some help and the team begins to play well, I think that's going to change, because now everybody knows Jack Hughes. Everybody. So there's that.
Definitely.
The other thing is, and again, the double-edged part is that no one's going to read it if they can't read it, because it ain't there to read in the first place. And when the Devils came, you had Larry Brooks, you had Mark Everson, Walt McPeak back in the day, you had Rich Scher. Everybody was out, and I think there's a trend in news, and thankfully I don't see it at the Post, thank goodness, where they keep discounting sports coverage. You have a lot of news people that don't like sports. They don't like sports, and I have multiple theories on that. That could be a whole show. I've had news directors say to me, why do we need to cover sports? If the Yankees win at 4:00, I get it on my phone, right? And then, so why are we showing highlights at 10? So I would say, well, if the governor, I'm going to be colorful. This is what I said to my boss. You want to know why I got laid off? I said, if the governor passes gas at 4:00 in public, Mollie loves it already. If he passes gas in public, we get it on our phone at 4:00. Why are we doing the story at 10? And now Devils versus news. And then you have TV stations now in smaller markets that are starting to cut weather, and they're using the same excuse. Well, I get weather on my phone, so we're just going to farm it out to the Weather Channel. So they make all these excuses why they can't cover it, but they never apply that business model to news, because they're very protective of their little baby. And look, I read the Post online now, buying the paper. It's a thing we haven't done in a long time. When I discovered that whatever I was reading in the morning paper, I read last night online. But Mollie, thank you for doing what you're doing. I wish there was more, and I think the Devil coverage is going to change. It has to now, because now you've got this marquee. I mean, Marty was a big star, but nobody. I mean, I love Marty. We all love Marty. But who's saying, "Oh, I got tickets to go see Marty at the Devils," or Scott Stevens? These are superstars, and they couldn't get coverage. Now you got a guy. He's cute. He's missing a couple teeth. He's got the cute girlfriend. He won the gold medal for USA. Now there may be a reason, so I think that might change going into next year. And that means somebody else gets to work at the Post, which would be awesome.
Reason. George, you forgot the main reason. He's Jewish. And his brother.
What's
that? But
and his other brother is.
I believe next year the Post will.
From your lips to God's ears, Stan. I would love that.
Come on, Mollie. We'll get you some green and white.
I will say, Larry and I played a huge role in us covering the Islanders full time, because when I first came on, I obviously wanted to do hockey more, and I was kind of the number 3 for the Rangers, but the Islanders were starting to have some success, so I kind of pitched to go out there, and then it kind of became a regular thing. But then it was becoming us parachuting in the conference final with the Islanders, and I was like, this is embarrassing. We should be here all year. We can't just jump in when it gets good, when they're about to go to the Stanley Cup final. Like, it felt wrong. So we played a huge role in them hiring.
Mollie, you must have worked for the same people. Mollie has apparently worked for the same people I did. Why are we at Giants every week? Why are we at Jets every week? Because if they make a run and you show up and, like you said, parachute in, the team doesn't know who you are. The media staff doesn't really know who you are, and you haven't had a chance to build relationships with these players.
Correct.
And I'll just give you one little, my old Shop News 12 story, is that the last time the Giants won the Super Bowl, we decided not to cover the parade. We'll let Long Island cover that. We're going to go to the big Super Bowl event at MetLife Stadium. And every department is in on the meeting except one. And can you guess which department was not invited to the meeting to cover the celebration? Starts with an S and ends with PORTS. They didn't invite us in. And I'm out there Wednesday for practice, Sunday for games. So I went anyway to the game. To the event.
Yeah.
And my photographer was there. I said, look, I'm anchoring the 10. I'll just get a bunch of sound. I'll use it. So I ran around. It ends before 6. I get the governor of New Jersey. I get Tom Coughlin. I get 5 players. I've got Brendan Jacobs holding the Super Bowl trophy. And I run back up to the truck. And it's 20 minutes to 6. And I can turn this around. And I call the news desk and they go, hang on. no, we're going to rerun Bob's fan package from 3. And I'm like, I just talked to the guys that won the Super Bowl. And you don't want that? This is news. And so luckily you got a strong sports department, and they mostly get it. And I think, again, keeping it on hockey. Look, Long Island, now they got Schaefer. The Devils have Hughes. I think there's a reason to get back out there again, and I really hope it happens, because
I think the Devils could take
if you don't give them article.
I think the Devils could take a page out of the Islanders' book of how the Islanders are having Schaefer, be the face of the organization. And, you could talk to him anytime. I think that's also Schaefer and who he is. I hope to find out in the playoffs this summer. But yeah, I think there needs to be more access to Jack Hughes too.
Did you say playoffs with the Islanders?
Well,
I did.
They're not in.
But I think they'll make it. I said
I hope you were right, but I keep telling my son Simon and my granddaughter, who's big Islander fans, this team is walking a tightrope all season. That's the way they've been, but this is really a tightrope, and there's as a fan, I worry about them. I do worry for the entire family about them. But the point is, at this moment in time, they have not made the playoffs. They may be up there, but tonight, if they lose to Calgary tonight, whatever night you show this, if they lose to Calgary, I'll give you a French word with a Yiddish accent, ach and vey. That's what it's going to be if they lose to Calgary. But we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
I gotta ask, and we all gotta be in on this. I gotta ask this because Alena brought it up. Dirty play on Matthews. None of the Leafs come to get even. George, Mollie, if you're in charge of the Maple Leafs, are you pissed off that nobody came out and beat up this bad guy, Gudas?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that it's kind of a unspoken thing in hockey that, you want to see some retaliation there, especially when you consider the guy who was on the receiving end of the injury. I think it was pretty apparent when he went down that it was bad. So yeah, I think you want to see some reaction just to kind of reflect on the dynamic in the locker room, so to say. But granted, I've also watched, I've been watching the Rangers now for a few years, and it doesn't always happen for whatever reason, whether, the wrong guys are on the ice for it, or, no one, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say. I've never been on the ice, so I can't really say, and I'm not around that team enough to comment on the dynamic.
No, that's true. But and Mollie, you're out there. I'm not out there anymore, which may be a good thing. I don't know. But two things came to mind, and now that I'm not out there, I can say this without having to worry about getting anybody angry. That event, because what we're seeing in hockey now, it's this strange trend that if you check somebody cleanly and you nail them,
right,
somebody on the ice is going to come over and fight you because you knocked the guy down, which is crazy. It's a clean hit. What are we doing? And now you've got the captain of the Maple Leafs, their best player, arguably. You got guys on the ice. I've seen the still shots where they can see it happen and no one does anything. And the hit wasn't just knee on knee. He stretched like a first baseman to hit this guy, right? To hit Matthews. So my question is, two things. I'll throw it out to the panel. That's how you do a talk show, at the panel. One, the culture, which Mollie brought up, and Alena and I have been talking about that too. But two, do you think there's still undercurrent resentment of the whole captain of Team USA thing, and maybe that's played into this?
No way.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not there. I don't know.
No way. Yeah, no way.
Sure?
I doubt.
There's so much grief up there.
Yeah,
Matthews being loved, and I think Matthews is respected by his teammates, but the team didn't respond aggressively enough. I mean, they eventually pushed back, but it was too late. It happened in the third period when Gudas had already been ejected from the game. I have another question. He's been suspended for 5 games now. Do you think it's enough, or he injured Crosby during the Olympics? So...
Yeah. I think that it was just like a little soft to not even
That
do
on
an
the
in-person,
hand,
like
yeah.
not even to do an in-person hearing. Like if you look at the wide scope of it, like you didn't have to suspend him for more than 5 games if you did the in-person hearing, but aren't we trying to deter this? Like, aren't we trying to, at the very least, deter this situation and just doing a run-of-the-mill phone call, even though it is going to be the maximum for that phone call. I think at the very least, an in-person hearing would have sent a little bit more of a stronger message. Like, no, I'm going to make you come down here, look me in the face, and we're going to talk about this because you are on quite a heater right now, dating back to the Olympics, So I just think that, there's a lot of criticism that you can hurl at the Department of Player Safety. And I think that this sort of situation is one of them because, like I said, they didn't have to suspend him for more than 5 games, but like, let's treat it a little bit more seriously. And the fact that the verdict only comes out immediately after it's announced that he tore his MCL. If they're taking into account the severity of the injury and letting that determine it as well, that's just egregious. But I don't know enough about their process because they don't talk to anybody and there's no transparency. So
The other thing is that traditionally, the union, players' union, sides more or often enough with the assailant rather than the victim, and that's been the way it is with the union. So you gotta figure them into this thing. The union has always been very vocal about objecting to the banning of fighting.
yeah,
And one of the reasons is that the fighters pay dues to the union, but the whole issue of refereeing hasn't been solved since 1917 when the league was formed. And today it's different. Every epoch it's different. Today it's different because the players are gargantuan. There's less room. It's much easier to have contact. And when the Rangers won the Cup in 1940, the average guy was like 5'8" and 150 pounds, and now they're like
Matt Rempe, 6'9" and 215.
yeah, well, he's one of my questionable favorites, Matt Rempe. But an interesting character. But I'll tell you,
Yes.
no, there's a new guy on the team, and you're going to mark my words. And I'm telling you right now, I have his name, his spelling. He's the new guy, Ty
Cartier. Yeah.
How do you say it?
Cartier, I think. Ty Cartier.
Yeah. I'm predicting, I've already predicted it, but I'm predicting now that he is going to be an ace. He's going to be, he's already got a couple of good, and he's not a kid. He's been around. I don't know what stupid people let him go, but this is a tremendous get for Drury. I say that next season, you're going to see he's going to be one of the regulars. He'll be on the third line, whatever. But this is a good one. This is a good one.
No, I don't disagree.
I got nothing against Rempe, but the fact is, if a guy is 6'8", 6'9", he ain't going to lose a fight. He may draw unless he fights the character on Columbus who beats the crap out of everybody. Olivier, he's stunned. Rempe did an imitation of a rubber man when he went off the ice. He was drunk, but that's the guy to watch. I don't know if he's a good interview or not, but
no, I think you're right. I did like some, research on him, just look back at his history, where he's come from. And let me tell you, the kid is a fighter. The kid will not take no for an answer. Anytime there's a roadblock in his way, he comes back 10 times stronger. He didn't make his OHL team, his first training camp, came back. And by the end of his OHL tenure, he was the top overage player in the entire league. He went undrafted in the NHL, went to a Seattle Kraken, training camp, went back to the OHL, put up a 79-point season, got signed by the Kraken. He's just constantly coming back stronger, and it's shaped him into the player that he is today. I asked him about it, and he said that nothing in his career has ever come easy to him. And that is a characteristic that you can't buy, you can't train, it just comes. And I think that just in terms of a character pickup, I think that he'll be good for the Rangers.
Why am I angry at her, Alena?
I don't know why.
She knows more than me.
I'm boots on the ground,
but
Stan.
kidding
You
aside,
know a lot about more stuff than I do, trust
no,
me.
kidding aside, Molly, when you see him, you tell him the Maven says he's going to be
I will.
unbelievable. You come up with these great gets, but it'll and what a name! What kind of name is that? I never saw a name. I'm 100. How old am I? I'm 93
How
years
old am I?
I got to ask you this question later, and ask Georgie because I already told Alena. I'm going to be 94 at the end of the month, March 31st. Don't stop laughing. I told Alena before you guys came on, I just fell in love. Now, am I too old to fall in love?
No, never.
I needed this support.
Never.
Never.
She's from, I'm not going to go into the whole Megillah, but here's the story. In 1960, when I was writing for the Journal American, I did an interview with this woman who's into comedy writing. Her name was Lydia. She likes to be called Lyd. Lydia Hope Weiland. And I ran the story ran, nice picture of her, and that's it. She disappeared from my life, okay? About 3 weeks ago, through a series of coincidences, she finds out via my literary agent that I'm alive. You can never tell from minute to minute, but I was alive that
Good
week.
start.
Anyhow,
that week.
she sends me an email. Are you the Stan Fisher? Blah, blah, blah. And then she sent a picture of the story that I did about her 66 years ago. And since then, we have fallen in love.
Oh, Mazel Tov, Stan.
Thank you.
She's funnier than Maven, which is impossible. But
she's into comedy. That's what hooked me up. Her sense of
And
humor.
you love your jokes.
I love jokes. That's right. But I'll invite you to my bar mitzvah and we'll all celebrate. Okay?
Perfect.
I'll be there. Molly, I have a question for you. What's the toughest part of being a reporter that fans don't really see? When you cover a team every day, you naturally get close to it. But when the team is underperforming or missing the playoffs, how do you stay professional and keep your emotions in check?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that when I went to school for journalism, I feel like I was classically trained, maybe if that's the best way to say it. The first words that I heard when I walked into my sports professor's room was no cheering in the press box. Quite literally the first words written on the board. So from day one at UMass, that was the cardinal rule. I mean, it was a sin. It was an absolute sin to root for your team or to show any emotion. I was taught that you have to be unbiased. You cannot have any emotion toward it. You can't have, not emotion toward it, but or rooting interests is maybe the better way to phrase it, because of course when the team is doing better, it's more fun to be around, more fun to write about. But as I've learned throughout my career, I think some of the best stories come out of losing locker rooms too. So I think that you just kind of have to have a level head about it all, because that's what your job is. It's not your job to be upset or have any or feel any sort of way about the way that the team is performing. It's your job to write about it subjectively and and relay the information that you can to your readership.
I love studying style, and one of the things I adore about your work is that you'll do a one-sentence lead.
Always.
And you want to know
That's the New York Post.
You want to know what the tie-in with my new love affair with Lyd?
Yeah.
Is the story that I wrote about her. I opened with a one-sentence lead. And the lead was a funny thing happened to Lydia Weiland on her way to the joke book or whatever, but it was a one-sentence lead. And it was based on the hit show at the time, which was a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. So see that? You and I are we were doing this. We're doing it on the same track. The difference
stylistically.
No, Molly, you're out of it. Lydia beat you, and that's it. That's my girl.
Damn.
Anyhow,
I have a great question
I
for
didn't
Mollie.
know.
I got a great question for her. I think just one of the things I teach now. We should maybe get you over to Kane University, Mollie, at some point.
Yeah,
I have a sports comm class, and it's all issue generated. It's not more textbook stuff. It's like the headlines kind of. I have a format, but events of the day kind of dictate what we talk about, and it's really cool. So we went through this whole thing about old media, dinosaur media, to the new media, and you're sort of in that wave, but you're part of the old media now, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they talked about, this is a new thing I love to hear, it's called UGC, user generated content, where anybody with a computer and a ball cap and headsets and some bobbleheads can get on and pontificate about sports. And people treat them like they're journalists, and they're not. And it makes me nuts. So what I tell when this whole subject of fan versus professional comes up, I finally had to say, like, there was one, I'm not going to mention the name, but the woman was covering the World Baseball Classic, and she said, "Oh, do you think they're going to be mad because I have a Yankee tattoo on my foot?" And you can see it on her shoes. And I said, "Well, they might not care, but the Yankees would." Right. And so what I said was, and let's see
absolutely
if
not.
You agree, if you agree with this, well, if you could, they want to, can you be a fan and work in the business? Well, I said, well, you have to be a fan to get into the business.
Correct.
And I said, yeah, I think you can be both, but you can't be both at the same time. When you're working, you're working. When I was at News 12 and we're covering the Devils, for instance, when we covered 2 of the Stanley Cups, 4 finals, you're waving the flag and doing positive stories. But when they blow it to Ottawa on the last day of the season, or they choke against Pittsburgh, you got to be able to say it. And you got to be able to go in the room when they give up a goal with 3 seconds left to Carolina in the playoffs and interview those guys and be able to tell the story. And it makes me crazy that the fan generated content, which I think is great for interest. Like when I do podcasting class, or I speak at other classes, I'm like, the best thing about podcasts is anybody can do it. And the worst thing is anybody can do it. And I'm like, you're not journalists, kids. You're not. You didn't train. You went to school. First thing, I spoke at my son's sports reporting class at Newman University last month. Their eyes were popping out of their heads at the stuff I was telling them. And I'm like, you can't, you have to draw the line when you're working. If you want to go home and say, oh, that was great that the Rangers won. Okay. But you can't do it when you're there. You can't wear Ranger gear to the press 100%. Box. You can't wear a Yankee hat when you're on a press pass at the stadium.
Nope.
And there are people in the media right now who do that. And I'm getting too old.
No, you're not. You're not.
The cloud. Look at me. I'm just
no, but you're not, like, at all. Like, I completely agree with you. I think it's just the way that the industry has trended, and with the rise in social media, with the rise of everybody and their mother having a phone, having a mic, being able to express their thoughts, and like, there's nothing that's going to stop that. But there is a difference between that and journalists who go to school for it. And I think that a lot of people think that they can skip the journalist, being trained as a journalist, and still want to be treated as one when their content is more fan driven, is more, skewed in favor, or, catering to, whatever it may be that's, that a independent journalist wouldn't cover. And it's tough for, someone like me, who I feel like I'm young, and I'm, in the, industry, and I have been for a bit, but I was classically trained, and I'm competing with people who are able to be more biased, be more forthcoming in their emotion, and that's what sells nowadays. People just like to watch others react to big goals or something like that. Like, I had one of our social media teams when I was at the Olympics be like, oh, like, if you want to film you and Ethan, during the game, like before the game winner, like, so we could see your reaction and put it in the video. I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like that, there is no way I'm giving you footage of me celebrating a goal, even if it is the United States, even if I am an American. Like, I'm there as a journalist. It says it on my credential. That's not what we do. We are not there to root or have any you know it any sort of stake in what's going on in front of us. So it's tough because we are competing with that now, and they're allowed to be in the spaces that we're allowed to be in, which at one point they weren't, but now they are. So it's just a very interesting field to navigate as it transitions towards this like multimedia way.
You
There's
said
one more question that
steak.
I have. Get out of everybody's way, Molly. This is a good one because I have a buddy. We used to go on the Yankee Sunday plan back in the day. So I ended up working for the Red Sox. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So again, especially when it's off season, hot stove league for baseball, or like you're getting ready for the trade deadline or the draft or free agency, and you go online and you want to find articles, whether it's on Twitter X or it's on Google, and you're searching and searching. And all you're doing is finding these articles where people are quoting other people's articles. They're not
just
even talking
aggregating
to
it. Yeah, no, 100%. It's
God.
infuriating. I mean, like, look, I don't mean to put Bleacher Report on blast, but there have been so many times where I've reported something, and less than 5 minutes later, they have it on their account, which is bigger and has more followers. And like, that's all fine. But there have been like 2 times where I've almost responded and been like, wow, 5 minutes, like that's a new record, because it's mine and it's my work. And yeah, sure, you're tagging my name in your tweet, but like you're benefiting and monetizing my work, and me being boots on the ground, actually being in attendance, which that's the other thing. Nobody is willing to pay people to actually go anymore because everything is online and you can just steal it from being online. But you know what? That's how things get misquoted. That's how storylines get skewed. It's terrible, quite honestly, but that's just the way that the internet has impacted our what we do, our jobs.
I just want to throw this in, is that when you'll
the
see Yankees or you'll say the Rangers talking trade with Kings, and you click on the article and it says, would the Rangers be better if they got this guy from the Kings? Well, one internet writer said that he theorized that and it's not even a real trade. It's not even, there's no sources. It's
Right.
people making stuff up. They do it in baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and it's somehow passing as content. And it's like, what are we doing? You guys have got me all fired up today, and it's Saturday. What am I doing?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I have a stake in this issue. First of all, I was crazy hockey, still am. My son, I have 2 sons, and they both played. My younger son, Simon, had a heart transplant in '93, so he had to give up playing. But the love of the game is with him. And he's had 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. Now, the younger girl played on the Israeli national women's team. They actually won a big tournament, beating Bosnia a while ago. She's now living in Dallas. The younger girl, Abigail, is now 17. She's the captain and defenseman for her team in Indiana, which was George Steinbrenner's Culver Academies.
Awesome.
And they just won a Mid-Atlantic tournament, and they're going to be in the Nationals. My point is, how crazy is this growth of women's hockey? I mean, they got a professional league now.
Yeah.
And I heard that some games are sellouts.
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain it? It seemed to me like it was the song. You came to me from out of nowhere. How did this happen? You've been following it.
Yeah, I think that there's been a conscious investment in women's hockey in general. I think that one of the biggest things that needed to happen was the creation of the Professional Women's League. For a while there, it was a couple different leagues, and they were kind of competing with each other. And I remember talking to Kendall Coyne Schofield about it when right before they created the PWHL. How difficult it was to not have one central league that everybody can focus on and put all their energy into, like come together and just work together to make it like what the NHL is. So I think that was one of the most crucial things that needed to happen. But I also think it's about visibility. I think that we've seen more female hockey players just in mainstream media. Like I think of, off the top of my head, I think of the Inside Out movies about the emotions, and the little girl is a women's hockey player. She's a hockey player. She loves hockey. And the second movie is all about her and like being on this hockey team. So little things like that. It's all about, you can see it, you can be it. That's kind of always been the message when I was growing up for young women, just to be able to see that you can be anything that you want to be. So having that more, be more visualized female hockey players has helped a lot. And then obviously, I mean, that US women's team was just outrageous to watch. I mean, just an outrageously good hockey team, truly. I mean, they destroyed every single team in their path. And obviously the gold medal game was not that way. But then you get Hillary Knight in shining armor, as I called her in my column. She just came in and changed the whole dynamic of the game. And for her to be the one to do it, and she sets an Olympic record in the process, it was just, you can't write it up any better than that, honestly. And for that to be her last Olympic Games too, it was just poetic. It really was. So all those sorts of things, they help with, help the platform of the PWHL, and, it creates storylines that people are interested. I think about the WNBA and, the emergence of Caitlin Clark and how everybody just wants to see the storylines, the drama between the teams, all that creates interest and eyeballs and things like that. So it's just about having more coverage. You could see it, you could be it. And I think that for women's hockey, it's absolutely having a moment here.
Well, my granddaughter is in this league, the
yeah
poly league, whatever they call it. There's no fighting allowed, and there are severe limitations on checking, which is good, which is very good. But if my granddaughter Abigail Fischler was playing defense for the Maple Leafs, she would have beat the crap out of Gudis.
I believe you. I love it. That's
we
great.
should put her in the game March
My
30th.
daughter's playing goalie right now in her women's league.
There you go. We need you on the Leafs. Yes, that's right. We're going to answer on the March 30th. Mollie, working in the male-dominated industry, specifically hockey, was it challenging at times?
I think that my time in college helped me a little bit with that, because you can get used to being the only woman in the room. It is possible. I had to get used to it on quite a few occasions when I was in college, so that when I got to the New York Post and I got into all these professional locker rooms and press boxes, it wasn't as jarring to me as maybe it would have been if I hadn't seen what it was like. So I was quite familiar, and I knew that it was going to be that way. But that being said, I do feel like that there are so many more women around the teams now, even if it is in a social media capacity or working in the PR department for the team. There are other female beat writers around the league. So I think that we have seen a bit of an influx of women in the hockey space for sure. But it always comes with its trials and tribulations. I think that there's a really good population of hockey fans and sports fans in general who just think that women shouldn't be a part of it at all or have anything to say on it at all. So those people, are always going to be there, unfortunately. But I have found that, yeah, I mean, when, the negative is always a lot louder than the positive, but I have found that I've received way more positive than negative in the grand scheme of it all. So I try to focus on that, but obviously it is always noticeable when you're one of the only women in the room or the only woman in the room. But kind of just comes with the sports territory right now. But I do think that we are seeing much better numbers for the females around sports teams nowadays, which is great.
So you do a lot of interviews. Who is the funniest person to interview?
That's a good one. Unfortunately, he's no
Stan.
longer on the Rangers anymore. Stan's up there, but unfortunately, he's no longer on the Rangers. But Artemi Panarin is one of the best interviews
I
that
love
I've ever
him.
done.
Yes, Breadman.
Yeah, he's an absolute gem of a human being in so many different ways. And my problem with him was during, when the Rangers were doing really well and winning all the time, and I could never go over to him for a quote because he just would be cracking jokes the entire time. I would be like, Artem, I need to ask you a serious question about how well the team is doing. And he would just be trying to make me laugh. And I'm like, I can't do it here anymore. I actually need a quote to use in my article later. So there were a couple times where I got annoyed at him for that. But all in all, I mean, yeah, we're going to miss him a lot around the locker room for sure. He was probably the biggest loss on the media front for us Rangers reporters, unfortunately.
This is such an interesting stereotype. A lot of people say Russians don't have a good sense of humor, but I've heard that Ovechkin is actually hilarious.
Artemi is hysterical, like truly. But he's kind of special in the sense that, you could always tell when players are thinking about what they say to you, holding back or, trying to think about where you're guiding the conversation, because that's all part of the media training and stuff. Artemi always spoke to me like a normal human being, and I just always appreciated that. Like, he was frank, he was honest, he was open, and that's kind of rare nowadays. So I always appreciated that about Artemi.
I'm having arguments with a few Ranger, not people on the team, but one guy, the guy who was with you at college, Jess.
Yeah.
And I'm arguing with him because he's complaining. I'm saying the Rangers are noble. They're going out and winning hockey games. That's great. That's great. You go to a game, you want to see your team win. He's saying, no. It's hurting them. They're not going to get a good draft. And what do you think? How do you feel about this retool?
I mean,
you can't buy a retool in a hardware store.
Retool, rebuild, whatever the hell you want to call it. They need to make some serious changes. Like, I mean, I think that was very apparent for the first couple months of the season. And I think that they're in a tough spot right now. I won't lie. They don't really have a lot of guys coming up in the prospect pipeline. They have swung and missed on a ton of prospects, on a ton of draft picks that have just not panned out for one reason or another, which, calls into question their development tactics and their development department in general. So I think that they should be paying attention to that more than anything, especially if they're going to have an influx of draft picks coming in and an influx of prospects, which we've already, seen them trade for a few, and they've picked up a couple young guys on waivers like Cartier, like you mentioned, and Vincent Iorio. But, and then you've also got a coach in Mike Sullivan who did not sign up for a rebuild, but I do believe that, he's the real deal. I think that his reputation as being a good manager of egos and personalities and building player relationships is always going to be beneficial to a room, no matter what state they're in. But I can only imagine that it's a tough mentality shift for him, to be focusing on getting Gabe Perreault, top minutes and power play minutes. And, we saw yesterday, he looked like he took Gabe off the top power play unit in favor of JT Miller, who should be coming back to the lineup tonight. So, these are the types of decisions that are going to get, picked apart left and right, for a retooling team. So it's definitely a different position. They didn't end up trading Vincent Trocheck, but I feel like that they're going to try again in the summer. But it's tough because you think about how long they waited and searched for a player like Vincent Trocheck, and they're going to ship him out, and then it's going to be like, oh, well, now you want a player just like Vincent Trocheck in the middle there, just younger probably. But yeah, it's a lot of it is obviously going to be dependent on which route Chris Drury takes here. But these next moves are just absolutely pivotal because you also are thinking about guys like Adam Fox and Vladislav Gavrikov and Igor Shesterkin, who are all on long-term deals, who all have trade protection, and are kind of in control of their fate. So you want those types of guys to stick around too and want to stick around too. But obviously losing doesn't help with that. And the vibes have been pretty good out of the Olympic break, though, I will say. I think that the pressure has really come off now that the trade deadline is passed and everything. So I think that the vibes are a little bit better, so that should help, with those sorts of decisions down the line. But there are going to be conversations at the end of the season of whether or not they want to be here through a rebuild, through a retool, whatever they want to call it. Even Mike Sullivan has been like retool, whatever, whatever you want to call it. Serious changes are afoot.
Molly, I have another question. The Leafs are kind of in a similar situation to the Rangers right now. As fans, there's almost a conflict of emotions. On one hand, you want your team to win every game, but on the other hand, if the playoffs are out of reach, some people start thinking about tanking for a better draft pick. So what do you think is the right mindset? Always cheer for wins no matter what, or accept the tanking process to improve the future of the team?
Yeah, no, I've actually written about this in a couple different ways over the last 2 days. Look, I mean, yeah, obviously a worse record gives them better draft lottery odds. And when you think about how the Rangers got Alexi Lafreniere with the 14th best odds in the 2020 draft, you think, why can't we get Gavin McKenna? So I get that thought process for sure. But on the flip side of that, what's going on with the Rangers right now, all the winning that they've been doing, they're feeling good about themselves, they're playing better. That sort of stuff has impact long-term too. I think, especially if they are trying to make this a retool, which means that they expect to be competitive again in the next, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, maybe at most. If it is truly a retool, that would be the timeline. So, you don't want to, like I said, drive away guys like Adam Fox and Vladislav Gavrikov. And, when you got a guy like Igor Shesterkin, that's your window. The task for Drury now is to, build the team back up so that they can capitalize on Igor Shesterkin's window as a top goaltender in this league. Because when you have that, you have a chance all the time. So it's understandable for fans to root for the tank. I get it. I really do. Gavin McKenna would be really fun. And I'm sure he's going to make his team very happy one day. But I mean, obviously the chances of them getting another first overall pick, it does seem like it's, just statistically speaking, it just does seem kind of far off. But I get the appeal and rooting for that. But I think that there's also benefits to come out of having a strong end to the season and just working on team camaraderie, team chemistry, and the team dynamic, and Mike Sullivan getting to know his younger players better and things of that nature, as he always says. But I actually have to run, guys. I'm so sorry. I have work to do before I cover my game.
No worries.
No, Mollie, a million thanks for coming. Million thanks.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'll write a joke that I'm going to tell after you leave.
Okay, perfect. I don't want to miss it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you.
Pleasure.
Okay, I want to tell you something, Alena. I was very, very upset.
Wow.
Very upset when you endorsed what they're calling tanking. In the late 40s, early 50s, we had terrible basketball scandals. Dumping, we called it, not tanking. A lot of college guys involved, and they didn't come to play to win. They played to win money on the side. However, I will never forgive the Penguins for doing what they did to get Mario Lemieux. I was doing Devils games, and the Devils owner, John McMullen, is up front as anybody. He says, we're going to play to win. We're not going to do this crap. And Tommy McVie was the coach, and he endorsed it enormously and wholeheartedly because they played to win their games. Now, whatever happens is going to happen, but it bothers me just to hear the use of the word tanking. What kind of crap is that? People pay money to go to see the Maple Leafs. A lot of money. They don't go there to boo them. They go there to hope that they get goals and they win the hockey game. But whatever will be, will be. I just want to get that straight. When you're ready for the gag, study philosophy, George?
Yeah, I had a semester of philosophy, so I know a little bit of that stuff. Sure.
Okay, so you know who Plato is, right?
I absolutely. Okay. He's got a
Plato,
retreat someplace that everybody loves to go to.
So anyhow, Plato, the great philosopher, walks into a bar arm in arm with a platypus. And the bartender looks at Plato and looks at the platypus, and obviously Plato's getting very embarrassed. The bartender's staring at him with the platypus, and finally Plato says to the bartender, well, she looked better in the cave. You forgot to tell me how good I looked from last week when I looked like Frankenstein. Now I look like Dracula. At least he combs his hair.
See the other guy.
Yeah, exactly. You should see the other guy. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mollie, for joining us, and to everyone listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to follow, subscribe to Bottle Rocket, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.